Hello, you. How are you?
It's weird because usually I'm always the one with some random shirt on. And today, and you have the Station 19, but we're flopped. We're
We're
flipped.
switched. I have a Brandy Carlisle t-shirt on.
You do.
It
God, I loved that
says,
song you sent me.
Did you like it?
Oh God. Yeah, I listened to it on the plane, right? You were
Yeah.
distracting me.
Yeah.
And thank God for 12 hours. And God, it gave me chills and teared me up that song. Beautiful
Yeah.
voice, first of all, by the way. I can't believe I've
Yeah.
never heard of her before.
She's honestly
Um,
incredible. Brandy Carlisle, I
yeah.
can't say enough good things. She
Yeah.
is from Seattle. So there's
Hey,
the
Seattle.
little Station 19, reference there.
Yeah.
She actually, in her earlier years, in the sort of early to mid noughties, had a few songs played on Grey's Anatomy. They played a few of her songs on there. And
Awesome. Is that how you heard of her or you knew of her before that?
no, I came across her really randomly because I'm mad obsessed with Sheryl Crow. Sheryl Crow was
Oh,
like,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So Sheryl Crow was, I discovered Sheryl Crow when she first came out when I was at a really impressionable age. So
Sure.
when I was 12, her record came out, and the only girl that I'd seen play guitar apart from that was Joni Mitchell, who was my dad's age.
Uh-huh.
So to see
Yeah.
like a chick play the guitar and be kind of cool and kind of she's a little bit rock and roll and I played the guitar and didn't have any kind of contemporary role models. So Sheryl Crow was that for me. And then Sheryl Crow was kind of an early adopter of Brandy Carlisle's music and pulled Brandy Carlisle up on stage with her to do some duets and stuff with her. And I was randomly watching YouTube videos one day, or listening to YouTube, just stuck a Sheryl Crow YouTube playlist on and let it run. And I heard If It Makes You Happy for about the 85th time that day. But she'd pulled Brandy Carlisle up on stage to sing it with her. And I was busy doing other things. And when I heard Brandy's voice, I was like, what is that?
Yeah. Yeah.
And looked up and then had to look up who she was. And from there on, I was like completely
Yeah.
obsessed because she's absolutely incredible. But she's really only just breaking through. As I say, Grey's Anatomy, they had a few songs on Grey's Anatomy in the early to mid noughties, and they did a. I don't know if you know because I know you're not a Grey's fan. They did a musical episode of Grey's
Oh, no,
Anatomy.
I didn't. That's hilarious, but no, I didn't know.
It is. It's. I don't know whether it's brilliantly bad or badly brilliant. I can't decide.
You just have to like it, right?
Yeah, but there's a massive number in it. Sado Ramirez does the bulk of the singing, and they have got an absolutely incredible voice.
Hmm.
And their big number is called "The Story," and that is a Brandy Carlisle song. But obviously, Brandy Carlisle doesn't sing it because Sado
Yeah.
Ramirez sings it.
Man, they should have
But
had her guest star or something and sing it with her. That would have been cool.
that would have been so cool. That would have been very cool. But yes, but yeah, and then when you were on the plane and I was running out of things to distract you, I was just like, oh, music. And so I sent you a link to or told you to look up a
Yeah.
song called The Joke by Brandy
Yes.
Carlisle, which is their big breakout hit. So they're now starting to get a lot more success and they've won a lot of Grammys and a lot of people have heard of them now because they're a band. The lead singer is called Brandy
Yeah.
Carlisle, but
Yeah.
they're a band. So yeah, I sent you The Joke, which is a bit of an anthem, and it's on this record. By the way, I forgive you, which is the
Which
shirt I
is
have on.
so two things about that story. First
Yeah,
one, when you sent me that song and I saw the title of it, I thought it was going to be some kind of like, I don't know, just kind of goofy, I don't know, just like the joke, I didn't
because
think
I'm
it
an
was going to
idiot.
be, I didn't think it was going to be as powerful of a song as it
No,
was, right?
yeah,
And so yeah, I've actually listened to it since then because it's an amazing song. Um, Second story is, Melissa, I had paid for the not free, obviously, because I paid for it, but there's a free Wi-Fi
yeah,
package that's really crappy. So I paid for like the most expensive one, which was like $20, which I thought was cheap. Um, that allowed me to be able to listen to the song. But I did it so Melissa and I could text the whole time because I was like, Melissa, there's no way I'm going to survive this 12-hour flight. Like, this is my anxiety was getting bad. I'm like, "This is bad. I'm not gonna be able to do this." And she loyally and faithfully texts me the entire 12 hours of the flight, which is insane. But it was so funny because at one point she was like, "This is so bad. All I can think of now is I Spy, and that's not going to work." And I laughed so hard for so long because I'm like, "Yeah, I spy something." She's
I was like, "You're on a
so
plane. I'm in my living
yeah,
room. I don't think this is gonna work."
yeah, and she was like, "This is all I can think of. What are we gonna do?" It was so funny. I still think of that sometimes, but yeah, it was good times for sure.
And I recreated because you hadn't been able to download, or you'd downloaded but couldn't access or something,
Yeah,
episodes of
it I
Station
yeah,
19.
it wouldn't work. Like the package I paid for, even though it was the highest one, it wouldn't let you stream, even though I had downloaded it.
And so I was recreating episodes of Station 19 via GIFs
She was sending me like the gifts in order of
and trying to get
scenes
them in,
from
yeah,
Station
chronological
19.
order.
Yeah, it
Oh
was so
god.
funny. So yeah, we made the 12 hours, we made them go by.
Hopefully it went a bit quicker for you.
Yeah, it did. It did. Plus the upgrade helped too.
Oh god,
So,
yeah. Thank
yeah.
goodness for that.
If I wouldn't upgrade, I wouldn't have made it.
No, there
There's
wouldn't
no
have been
way.
anything I could do about that, I'm afraid.
No, no. So,
Oh dear.
before we start, I need
Yeah.
to somebody messaged me and corrected me, and I want to correct it because I don't want to spread any kind of misinformation. I guess apparently Katerina did come back later and finish the selfies that she
Ah,
had that
okay.
she
In
had
the
left.
afternoon.
Yeah, that, she had left and I thought she didn't finish. I guess she did come back, and somebody messaged me and said, "No, she did come back because that's how I got my selfie." So, I told them I would correct it on the podcast that,
Coolio.
she did come back because I don't wanna spread any kind of anything that's not,
No, no.
correct. So, yeah, I guess she did come back and finish them, and
Still wouldn't have
people
blamed
did
her if she
get their
didn't.
stuff. Yeah, and me either. 100% wouldn't have blamed her.
No.
But, yeah, so I just wanted to get that out of the way before we got jumped in.
Good, good, good. And
Yeah,
we are going back to the very beginning today,
where it all started.
where it all started.
I'm
And
excited.
me too. So because this is where for me it all started. So my notes, I've upgraded them a little bit. I've titillated my notes, but my original notes are dated 14th of January because when the podcast still just was an idea in my head, it came about because I was rewatching season 1, and I kind of got like 10 minutes into one of the episode this episode, the first episode, and thought, "Do you know what? There might well be a podcast in this. There just might be."
Yeah,
After Julia had
yeah.
like got it into my head that maybe I should
Sure,
do a podcast, I thought maybe there
sure.
is. I'll just grab my laptop and I'll just bang out some and see what comes out. And it was
Mhm.
in the doing of that I thought there is a podcast in here. And that's when I came up with the name 2020 as well, Station 19 2020, because hindsight is 2020. And
It
I
is.
was watching it with the benefit of hindsight, and
Yeah,
I was kind of looking at them stressing out over what they were stressing out at and thinking, God, if you knew then what you know now, you wouldn't
yes,
be, but hindsight being always 2020. And I was like, oh,
sure.
because I've got a clear view of it, I'm seeing it in 2020 vision. Oh, look, this is all making sense. So I'm excited to go back. And it was enlightening to me when I read my read my notes as well. So, and when I went back over my notes and tarted them up a bit. So,
Mhm.
because we've had another half of the season, because it was during the hiatus that I did that, and we've had
Yeah,
like another half a season since then. So my
yeah.
perspective had changed even more.
Mhm.
So I don't know how you when was the last time that you'd seen season 1 before this current rewatch?
I can honestly say I had not gone back to season 1, episode 1 for probably this might be the first time. because what I had done in the past was just gone back and watched my favorite episodes
Right.
from each season.
Yeah.
And I don't remember, I didn't remember season one, episode one being a favorite. I mean, it's a good episode, but it's not, like I said, my favorite. Season two, or episode two, season one, episode two was one of my favorites,
Yeah.
which we'll get to. But it's probably been maybe a couple years since I went back and watched season one, episode one.
So really fresh eyes for you. Really, really fresh eyes.
Yes, yeah, and I've watched it a couple times now, preparing for the podcast.
Yeah.
And it's a good episode, just not a favorite of mine.
And you know how like I'm a little bit, what's the polite term? Quirky. Um, with certain like things that I pick out. I really liked with some like funny little coincidences with us. So what episode number of our podcast is this, Tiffany?
It's 20, right?
It's
No,
19.
it's 19. Sorry.
It's 19. It's
I
19.
wrote 19. God, I wrote recording 19. God.
It's episode 19. So
It is episode 19.
it's episode 1 for them and it's episode 19 for us. And so I kind of
Yeah.
like
You kind of
that
like
this
that
is
one, 19. Yeah.
that it's falling on 19.
Yeah.
And what's the first victim called?
It's the
She is
first victim.
called.
She's called Tiffany. She
She's called
is.
Tiffany.
She is.
So I liked that as well. I was like, this is super appropriate.
It is, for sure.
Episode 19. And she's called Tiffany. There's no Melissa in it. I was very disappointed.
No, there isn't. That's a bummer. Even though there was two incidences, there's no Melissa.
No Melissas.
No. Oh no,
It's
two incidences is episode 2. Sorry. I just watched that last
I
night,
think
so it's fresh in my
there
head.
might be 3 in this one.
Yeah, yeah.
So historically, we've kind of gone through things in blocks.
We have.
But I felt with this episode, I don't know how you feel. I felt with this one that everyone seemed very much together and it seemed quite linear.
Yes.
So are you happy to go through it in just kind of like chronological order, like as it happened, rather than going from block to block?
Yeah, no, that I pictured it that way too, especially the way it just kind of came out, and the way that it, especially for it being our first one as well. Um, I thought it might be cool to go through it, everything the way that it happened, almost like we're in the episode. You know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah. And it did feel quite immersive as well. And I think because the team were I mean, we'll see when we go through it, but it seemed like they were very much everyone together the whole time throughout the episode. It didn't feel like there was jumping from these folks to these
No.
folks. It was just like about the team, I felt. So
Written very differently.
largely, well, and apart from Andy, I think there was a bit with Andy in her apartment, isn't there, actually? But other than that, yeah. So you're happy to go through blow by blow?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. Okay. Episode 101.
Here we are.
Air date 18th of the 4th, 2018.
For
That's
you
forever
Americans,
ago.
that's
April the 18th.
yes.
April 18th, 04
Yes.
18.
Yes.
Yes. Written by Stacey McKee. Shonda Rhimes has got a name on the writing credit, but Shonda Rhimes is on all of the writing credits. I'm not entirely sure how much writing she
actually
did.
does, yeah.
But for the purposes of this, I shall leave her in.
Yeah.
Stacey McKee and Shonda Rhimes. Directed by none other than Mr. Paris Barkley. And the logline / synopsis for this one said, Andy Herrera must step up when the Station 19 crew responds to an apartment fire and Captain Pruitt takes a hit. So we start with a cold open, which is different to what we're used to seeing now because it mainly starts with a montage these days. But
Yeah.
we start with a cold open, Tiffany, and her laptop catches fire on her bed.
Yep.
So annoyed. Julia, she felt so vindicated. Julia's thing is laptops on soft surfaces.
Oh, okay.
I'm not allowed to leave the laptop on the sofa. It has to be tipped up so that the fan is facing out. And if we leave the house, it has to be put on the glass coffee table so that any residual heat can seep through the glass. So when she saw the laptop catch fire on the bed, she just gave me a look. And your mother's German, so you know the look.
Yeah, I know the look very well. And you often can't say anything to or at the look because the look is just the look. So you just got to kind of be like, all right.
You just have to accept it and move on.
You do.
So Anyway, that's my personal gripe out of the way. Um, and then, disconcertingly for me, when I first heard it, because as we all know, I started with 305,
Mhm.
we get a voiceover from Andy.
We do.
And she's talking about sliding down poles and getting stuck, and so using the stairs instead. And then 19 are at the fire, and it's Andy and Pruitt who are outside the truck discussing the nature and the location of the fire. And so immediately we're positioning Andy as the captain's right hand man slash woman.
Right, even though Jack is his
Is
lieutenant,
his
right?
lieutenant.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that the episode does a brilliant job because we get a sweep of everybody then. So the captain calls everyone by their name and gives them their assignment so we know who everybody is. We rescue Tiffany
Yep.
without much incident, but she says they have to go back in for Charlie. They're worried that Charlie is a child. Charlie, it turns out, is a West Highland White Terrier. Um, and Miller calls dibs on the puppy. Tiffany's shaking her head.
Because you can't call he's like there it was a
Dibs on the
cute
puppy.
scene that you can't call
It
dibs on the
was.
puppy, and he's like, "I did. I
I did.
called
I just
dibs on
called
the
dibs on the
puppy."
puppy.
Yeah, so
Good on him. Someone had to call dibs on the puppy. And Andy and Maya are then making fun of him as he's sort of flashing the puppy around, taking all the glory
yeah.
for rescuing the
Yeah.
puppy. And they say that he must practice his moves. And then they say that they're the ones that saved her butt, but he's the one getting all the credit. And that it's not going to fly when they're in charge.
No, because next time.
So I think that it like set it up as well, like a little bit of foreshadowing. Okay, we've got strong female
Yeah.
leads.
Yeah.
Hopefully this is where we're
Yeah.
going. So that's sort of like
Yep.
the opening scene that we get. What did you think about the cold opening versus the montage?
The scenes are so different from the
Yeah.
episodes we're at now. And, I remember thinking that, because I started watching it when, I don't know, what was it, season 2 or 3 with Ripley? Which
Two.
season was that too? Um, I remember thinking that I wasn't sure if I would have gotten so much into it as I did if that was the first episode I saw.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's
No, no, no.
just,
I understand completely what you're saying.
yeah, it wasn't awful. It's a good episode. It's a good show, but I appreciate the episode now because of my love for the show. Just not sure if I would have like seen that episode and be like, oh my God, this is the best show ever. I love this show. I have to watch this show. Um, so I think I appreciate the way it's introduced now more than it was then.
Yeah. And I think for me, it's because now it's very much, and I think this started with season 3 and with Krista Vernoff's taking over the reins.
Yeah,
Um, it's much more of an emotional show, and it's much more about who these people are, how they got to where they are, because it's season 3 that we start to get the flashbacks of, we see it through Pruitt's eyes, don't we? How
yeah,
Pruitt selected them to
yeah,
be on his team.
right.
And I like that because that's what I attach to. That's what I find interesting is people and how people tick and the emotion of it. And so that's why I love it because I think it's
Mhm,
got a real heartbeat. Is
mhm.
that similar to you? Is that what you think about?
You
Is
mean
that why you
you
love it?
for
For what it is
now or
now. Yeah,
for
for
what
what
it
it is
is now?
now.
Yeah, I mean, I think each character just I don't know, each character brings so much.
Yeah.
Um, and and I agree, you kind of see so much of the lives of each character and how they got where they are and who they are. And I agree, definitely see through when Pruitt said that statement, he picked them all because they're family.
Yeah.
Um, you actually do see that now, and and even family goes through because almost each character has had some kind of, I was going to say tiff, tiff or argument.
Yeah, they've butted
They say
heads.
a
Yeah.
tiff, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, with each other at some point. They've had, and that happens. That's very real, right? But they
Yes.
always come back to that kind of family bond relationship. And at the end of the day, even if they are in a bad place, they're coming for each other. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes, yes,
And
yes.
so yeah, I very much appreciate that and love that about the show now. Of course, we're not going to see that in episode 1 because we're just
Exactly.
starting.
They
But
can't
yeah,
do that. So
yeah,
yeah, so it kind of had to be a different show when it started because you have to get introduced to everybody and you have to get to know them sort of on a
right.
surface level. It's kind of like starting a new job.
It is. You don't know
You don't
anybody.
know anybody.
Everybody's
You just
new. Yeah.
Yeah, you just get like an idea of everybody in the first couple of weeks that you're there. You kind of learn everybody's name. You learn what their personalities are like and what everyone's work dynamic is like, how everybody interacts with each other. And then you start filling in the blanks and filling in the gaps and building things up after that.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because, which I'm sure we'll get to this, but some characters in the first episode I didn't care for as I care for now.
Nope.
There are things that certain characters did where I'm like, well, that was mean, or I don't like your personality. One in particular, I did not care for the entire episode. Anything they did, I did not like. And now I love them. They're one of my favorite characters. So I think the characters were written differently, or maybe they started writing them a certain way and they weren't quite sure where they were going with them. So there's that too, that not
Yeah.
really caring for who they were or what they were.
Yeah. I think some of them, I mean, it's in my notes further down. We can go into it later on in a bit more depth. But I felt like some of them, it could have been any episode from any season and it's the lines still would have fit. They were exactly the same. And
Yeah,
other
yeah, yeah.
characters, it was like I did like a really short live last week, and I said it's like watching a Facebook memory that someone's
Yeah,
posted
yeah,
from like
yeah, yeah,
10
yeah.
years ago of
Yeah.
someone that you've only known for the last 2 years. And it's like face I recognize, voice I recognize,
Yeah.
actions and personality I do not recognize. Someone
Yeah.
who's like, if you've got like a mate who's really buttoned down, really sensible, works hard, family person, and then you see a video of them 10 years ago and they're sipping tequila out of a barmaid's belly button, and you're like, what, pardon, who, what? Some of them was like that. It's like, who are you?
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. That's funny.
but it did feel a little bit like that in Shades.
Mm,
But I think that the cold opens worked back then because it was
yeah.
more focused on like the action, and so that works, introducing us to these
Mhm.
people that
Mhm.
we want to see saved, and sort of setting up the
Right.
situation rather than the montages now, which kind of show you where our people are.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
And what do you feel about the voiceovers? Because no, you say, because I probably need to temper myself.
You know, I had never seen Grey's, as you know, so
Yeah,
I didn't know that it was a Meredith Grey thing, which I think a lot of people did not care for because of that. Um, I liked it in certain episodes. The episode that I can think of, like, because I don't think it was always necessary, and the things that were said were not always likable.
no,
But there was an episode where it happened where I really appreciated it, like getting the insight of her,
mm.
and it would have been nice to get the insight of more than just her.
Oh my
Um,
god, I've literally written that down. It would have been
did
more
you?
interesting if they'd rotated the voiceovers between
Yeah,
characters. Could have worked that way,
yeah,
but not sustainable for it to just be Andy, is what I've written down.
yeah.
So yeah, exactly the same.
But the only episode I really, really liked it and cared for it was the episode where um Sullivan kind of like they were like going at it, and then he stops and like kind of sends her away
Right.
with these mixed feelings and mixed
Yeah.
emotions, and it was nice to hear where she was at because of that, because that was a hard scene. And so, or maybe if they only did it when there were really hard or difficult moments to kind of get
Yeah.
that inner look. But all the time one person is a little much.
Yeah, and I think it works for Grays because she is very much Meredith is or was, she's left now, but although she still does the voiceovers.
Does she really?
Yeah.
That's
Um
funny.
Yeah, well, she did for the remainder of 19. I don't know what she'll do for season 20, if she'll stay doing the voiceover, but it's called Grey's Anatomy, so they kind of still have to. I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know. But it worked for that because the show was called Grey's Anatomy and it was very Meredith Grey centric. And
Mhm.
I don't know whether they started this show with the intention of Andy being the protagonist, but the fact that it's called Station 19 and then you've got one person doing the
Mhm.
voiceover all the time, it
Right.
feels very mismatched.
Right.
So it just didn't. And you said, well, some of the things she said weren't likable. Agreed. Also, sometimes it felt really extraneous. It felt like they didn't really know what to say, but
Yeah.
but this is the format of the show, so she has to say something.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, it doesn't do it for me.
I can understand and agree with that 100%.
Yeah, and it semi does it for you, but only semi does it for you. Is that what we're saying?
Yep.
They also had a flash forward at the end of the scene as well, and they were doing flash forwards, weren't they? Which they no longer do.
Yeah, like at the end of each scene, there was a flash of what was coming. But did you like that?
Um, Again, I think it works for the show it was then,
Yeah, but not now.
but it wouldn't work for the show it is now.
Yeah.
And the more I think about it, the more I think I agree with you that I probably would have watched it, continued to watch it if I'd started from season one, because it was a banger of it was a very good pilot.
Yeah.
But I think it would have been like sometimes Julia and I will sit down and had an absolute shocker of a day at work and we're both mentally exhausted. And we'll put something on that we don't have to think about and we 50% watch it and 50% play on our phones.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think it would have been one of those shows for me
Mhm.
if it had continued in that vein.
Right. Yeah. Right. Not so emotionally
No.
involved or in depth or
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
But yeah. Have you got anything else to say about the beginning part?
Mm-mm.
I think we've
No.
covered that off, haven't we?
Mhm.
Guys, you can't see Tiffany, but I can see Tiffany, and she's just got herself in a cozy position, and she's just closed her eyes ever so slightly because she's being a trooper. But I will tell you, Tiffany has COVID,
I'm trying.
and she was doing really, really well, and I can see her fading. Bless her little heart.
I told you I feel because I just woke up, so I'm like, yeah, great, feel great. Let's start the day. And now I've been up for like an hour, and I'm like,
Meh.
okay.
Yeah, bless you. Right, we head back to the station,
Mhm.
and we've got Benjamin Warren being called new guy by Vic, who is busting his balls and giving him all the grunt work to do.
This
Um,
is where I do not like. I do. This is where I start to not like Vic.
there you go.
100%. 100%.
Well, I kind of didn't mind because I like Ben now. However, um,
Yes.
Ben in Greys for me was an absolute pain in the ass.
Yeah. You
He
remember
was
you telling me that.
extremely arrogant, very, very, very
Mhm.
arrogant.
Mhm.
He was trying it again in this episode of Station 19,
Yeah.
and I quite enjoyed, to be perfectly honest, Vic putting him in his place because when he moved over from Greys, he needed it.
Yeah. For
So
sure.
it's probably not a terrible thing, but she was really mean and she was hazing him. But also, she'd just come off from being Proby, and we know that they don't treat Probies particularly well. So she was
Yeah.
probably on a little bit of of a power trip. But
She probably was. And I get that. It's just there was one scene that we'll get to. Well, I don't know if we'll get to it or not because we're kind of going over scenes, but when she tells him to fix the hoses and she's like figure it out, I didn't care for that part. I'm like, come on, you can, like, I just thought that was, I don't know,
yeah,
the way she said it with her, the look on her face and the tone, I just found it very arrogant and I didn't care for it.
yeah, no, fair enough. No, she was. Um, she didn't treat him particularly well. No, I
No,
will
she
give
didn't.
very much
Not
give
at
you
all.
that. But he
No.
immediately pulls the surgeon card when she's giving him all the
he
grunt work. So
he
you can
does,
kind
yeah.
of see why she might be doing that because this is the first
Yeah.
time we've seen him pull the surgeon card. You can guarantee he's been doing it for the last 2 bloody weeks.
One, he deserves it, honestly, because we see, he almost gets somebody hurt, right?
Yeah,
By like, "Oh, we have to start heparin, we have to do this, we have to do that."
exactly.
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I get it. I get it.
But I love that I did appreciate that she just vicked him and
Yeah.
was completely unimpressed that he was a surgeon. She's just like
Yeah.
not impressed with it, and
Yeah, she's like, "Okay."
yeah.
Yeah.
So that's outside. Inside, Gibson is appealing for a poll day, and we learn that Jack Gibson has been at 19 for 2 years,
Mhm.
and that in that time they have never used the pole. And Pruitt says that Puffy's and Tiffany's do not make a poll day.
Right.
I respectfully disagree. Any day for me that has a puppy and a Tiffany in it,
It
poll
was a
day,
full
mate.
day.
Poll day,
Yeah.
mate. But it's kind of emphasized again, we see more again that Andy is Pruitt's right hand man because she's chasing around after him. And then we see that actually she's more than his right hand man. She's handing him things to sign. She's checked his calendar for him. She's filed reports for him. She's making sure that he's properly nourished. She's his caretaker. She's not just
Yeah,
his right hand woman. She's his caretaker. And
for
then
sure.
Kel Surprise, we find out that that's because they're father and daughter. And then we get our first family dinner scene, the first table scene, and I just thought that that was really masterfully written. I thought that was really well written because
Yeah.
we learn a little bit about almost everybody,
Mhm.
and we get to see their dynamics and how they interact with each other. So
Yeah.
Travis has cooked a meat-free meatloaf, which Dean isn't very happy about. Maya's bantering with and mocking Miller, asking him if he's trying to bulk up to rescue more itty bitty puppies. And then we learn that Maya was an Olympian. Travis says with sadness that the meal was his husband's recipe. So now we found out that A, he's gay, and B, his husband's gone, and he's not very happy about it.
Yep.
That's all we know at this point. It's not long again before Warren inserts his surgeon knowledge one more time when Dean's complaining about eating a plant-based meal, and again Vic shuts him down. So it's everything starting to build. I just thought it was really well done, that
Mhm.
table scene. Um, and then Pruitt says that it takes guts to cut someone open, and he likes guts. He expects everyone on the team to have guts, which leads him into a story which everyone moans about because they must have heard it all before.
Right.
Um, but Warren hasn't, obviously. And he embarrasses Andy with a childhood story about when she flew out to New York when she was 12 to drag him home from ground zero. And we've got Maya grinning, mocking her, mouthing baby Rambo because she knows it's coming. And everyone sort of has a bit of a cringe, but secretly thinks it's quite sweet. And I just think that that was superbly done. It felt very authentic, and it would still feel authentic now. Do you think?
Mhm. Yeah, I do. Yes, for sure.
But it kind of the way it introduced everybody and got more into like the family dynamic then.
Mhm.
Um, I thought it was really well done. And then of course Andy and Jack sneak off to go and have sex in the equipment room. Andy finds a ring in Jack's pocket and is absolutely horrified. And he asks if she doesn't want to get married or just doesn't want to get married to him. And they are saved by Zibel. So, thoughts, feelings?
Um, I would like to see that scene happen now. I think Jack is such a different person than he was in that episode. Um, Even the way he looked, to me, he's the
Mm.
most changed character in his appearance.
Yeah,
Um, but and Andy has grown to be such a different person, and I don't know. I don't. You never know really where they quite are, Jack and Andy. But
no,
I don't think. I don't know. I just would like to see. Do you think their relationship could work now? Do you think they'd be a good couple now?
no,
You don't?
no. I just don't. I didn't understand. There were like throwbacks. There was a kind of throwback comments because obviously I started watching season three. There were throwback comments to them being together, and
Mhm.
I was like, "Eh, I don't. Oh no, I don't
No, you
get it."
don't see it?
And
I'm
then
just
when
not.
I watched it, I was like, "Oh no, I don't. I definitely don't get it. I definitely don't get it."
No? Okay.
No, and even he is a completely different person. He was Mr. Smooth in
Yeah.
in the beginning, and he is kind of positioned, I think, as like the sexy guy that all the straight girls at least are supposed to. I think he's supposed to be like the good-looking, sexy guy, isn't
Mhm.
he? Is he? I think he
Mhm.
is.
Yeah.
The heartthrob, that's the word I'm looking for. I think he was supposed to be the
Yeah.
heartthrob. And so he was Mr. Smooth, and his neatly trimmed beard and his perfect hair, and, his eyebrows were different, I think. But I didn't get him and Andy then, and I don't get him now when he's like everyone's cute baby brother that's just getting himself into trouble all the time and needs rescuing from himself. Now in the later seasons, I don't get that either. I haven't understood Andy and Jack as a couple in any carnation of Andy or Jack.
Okay.
I just don't get it. And their chemistry to me was horrible. When they were like making out in the equipment room, it
Yeah.
didn't. It
It
was
didn't go for you?
it. No, it felt really awkward. I was just like, oh god, what am I watching? It didn't. It didn't seem like they were having a nice time.
That's so funny for me.
Did you
Yeah.
think did you think
I
they
I
made
didn't think that
sense or
I didn't think the chemistry was overly there. I think I just would have liked to have seen, we kind of they introduced them as a couple and ended them as a couple within 20 minutes of of an
yeah,
episode. And I just would have liked to have seen it over a couple episodes, that's all.
yeah. Um, and then you know what I'm like about the details. Who carries a bloody engagement ring in a box round in their pocket?
Right, unless you're going to be ready to use it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
And especially in that
100%.
kind of job where it's likely to fall out of said pocket. Keep it in your locker, son.
Yeah, right.
And it could have fallen out of his locker. She still could have come across it that way. They could have been having a
Yeah,
conversation and he accidentally pulled it out of the locker. It didn't need to be
yeah,
in his pocket.
yeah.
So, you know how things like that bother me. But yeah, I think the main thing that I took from that was that people like Travis and Vic around that dinner table. And when they first come in and Travis says, oh, the pole is mocking them, it's tall, shiny, and mocking, that could be Travis anytime. Vic breaking
Yeah,
everyone's
yeah,
balls could be Vic anytime. But
yeah,
then you've got Jack, who is like, I recognize your face just about, I recognize your voice, but I do not recognize anything that you're saying or doing right now.
yeah. No, Jack is completely changed for
Yeah.
sure.
Well, then we head to a second fire, and on the way, Maya is being told by Andy about the proposal.
I love that scene so much.
I've written in massive capital letters, "Love Maya."
Yeah, love Maya in that scene so much.
She was light, she was funny. The facial expressions.
Yeah. I love how she kind of just went with whatever Andy was giving her,
Yeah,
like, oh, that's great. Oh
Andy,
no, it's
that's.
not
And then she
great.
reads Andy's face.
Yeah,
Oh, we are
yeah,
not happy. Why would we be?
yeah,
He's a monster.
yeah.
Like,
Love it so much.
yeah. And the fun is in the secret sex, but it's all the we talk. Oh, we're not happy.
Yeah,
It was just brilliant. And then I loved how they in tandem when Warren's like, oh, what's going on? And they both go, nothing, new guy, in
yeah,
tandem at exactly the same time. Loved that. And then as we pull up, we meet Ryan because his cop car's blocked the hydrant. So Andy just does what any reasonable person would do and just rams his cop car with their fire truck,
right, right.
whilst yelling at him on the phone. And they start arguing like siblings, even kind of saying, well, I'm telling my boss. Well, I'm telling my boss. Like kids going, oh, I'm going to
Yeah,
tell mum. Well, I'm going to tell mum on you.
yeah.
But then we find out from Maya that they were actually high school sweethearts.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then, per Pruitt's orders, Dean is training Warren. Andy and Maya pair up. And then Jack goes with Pruitt. And then Jack loses Pruitt somehow when he goes to check a kid's room. He comes out and Pruitt's gone. And then Maya and Andy find the captain, find Pruitt unconscious. And they start talking about technical stuff and the fire's choking and the flashpoint is imminent and it sounds very scary. Um, and then Andy, understandably, is kind of panicking because Pruitt, her dad's unconscious and hasn't got a pulse. Maya makes and executes the plan, which I kind of liked, that
Mm-hmm.
because she's been a bit of a joker up to this point. Like we've just
Yeah.
seen her as she's been the comic relief. And so it was quite cool to see her in action and see her be super sensible. And she's the one that keeps her cool, makes the plan, executes the plan, and they go out of the window.
Right.
At this point, we're 17 minutes in to the pilot. We know who all of the characters are, we know all of their relationships, we've seen humor, and now we can see the exciting stuff as well. There's flashy stunts, booms, bangs. I mean, that's pretty good stuff, I think,
Yeah.
for a pilot TV show to be quarter of an hour in, 17 minutes in, and we already know who everybody is, know how they interact with each other, and we've seen all sides of everything. I just thought it was really well done to have someone
Mhm.
leaping out of a window 17 minutes in and to already care about them, whether they hit the ground or not, I think is pretty well done. Andy is fuming with Jack because he lost her dad, and she's shoving him around. And Ryan is the one who comes to comfort her. And so we're setting up now the love triangle straight away.
Yep.
Warren gets smacked down again, but it's by Travis this time, as you previously mentioned, because he could have killed Pruitt because they're on their way to Grace Sloan in the ambulance, and Warren's wanting to overtreat. And so Travis basically tells him, look, you're trying to be a surgeon, not a firefighter. And doing that could have got Pruitt killed right in front of his daughter. And then we get a nice Grey's crossover for those of us who would have followed it over from Grey's, because Bailey is the one that perceives Pruitt when he arrives at Grey Sloan. And then Andy and Jack have a fight, and she blames Jack outright for her father's condition and calls him reckless. And then Meredith Grey appears, as does Maya with some of the team. But then Maya, that was really delicately done. So they showed straight away they could do delicate things as well, because Maya looks at Andy's face, reads the room, and then ushers the team away to give Andy some space.
Right.
And it's Meredith that takes Andy into a closet, basically, so that she
Mhm.
can break down, and then tells her to pull herself together. So clearly, again, it's trying to get us to identify with Andy the way we do with Meredith, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
But we see what a close knit team they are, because everyone's in the waiting room waiting for news. And again, we see Maya and Andy's bond, because Andy goes and sits next to Maya and they start having a little chat. But they haven't got far when Bailey and Meredith come out and say that the surgery went well, but they pull Andy aside to tell her that her dad has cancer and he's been hiding it. Andy's obviously fuming with him, but he says that there's no time to be angry with him because he needs to step down immediately, and Gibson will take over until the department finds a new replacement.
Yeah, which Andy was like, no.
Yeah. So, thoughts, feelings about that? All that's gone before?
That was my first take on Meredith. Um,
Yeah.
I really appreciated that she gave Andy the time
Yeah.
to be in that room. The only thing I didn't like was when she was standing there. Did she didn't really have a very compassionate look on her face?
She
Is that
Meredith
just her,
yeah,
or
Meredith is a very still waters run deep kind of a person.
okay?
Um
Because she just kind of was like looking at her watch, like okay, you're done, and it was just like
yeah.
okay,
Meredith Grey is a very complicated character. She's had a very complicated life, very complicated upbringing, very, very complicated
okay,
upbringing. And she's emotionally a very complex person. She's a good, very good person. She's very caring, but she keeps it close to her chest. There's very few people that
okay.
she'll be open with. But yeah, that was, I thought it was kind. It was kind, and that's as soft and squishy as Meredith Grey will get with anyone who's not Christina Yang, who's not in it
Okay,
anymore. But
I do remember that name of that character.
yeah,
So, but yeah, I just kind of felt she was kind of harsh there. That's all.
yeah, I can see how if you're not familiar with Meredith that it could come across that way. Any more thoughts, feelings about that?
I absolutely loved the scene with Andy in the supply room.
Yeah,
I loved seeing that part of her getting just I think Jana Lee Ortiz pulled that scene off very well. and so it was a very good scene.
Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
the best that I've seen her act, actually.
Mhm.
And I was kind of actually a little bit taken aback to see that, but I think maybe
Yeah,
that she hasn't been given enough opportunities to do stuff like that,
I agree.
potentially,
Yeah, I agree.
because clearly she can do it and do it well.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, loved that scene.
I loved how literally from the ride to the fire to them waiting for Pruitt to come out of surgery, at various points throughout that, they set us up with the closeness of Andy and Maya.
Yes.
You know, Maya says to Andy about, secret sex is the best. So
Yeah.
she obviously knows it's a secret to everyone but Maya that Jack and Andy are
Yeah.
together. And there's no competition between them for anything. It's just complete support.
Right.
But they've kind of set them up as well that Andy very much is like the straight man. She's very heavy, very serious, and Maya provides comic relief with all her snark and her witticisms and her facial expressions and
Yeah.
everything. So that's a real change as well.
Yeah.
And then when Ryan's comforting Andy outside the apartment fire, it reminded me of Maya and Karina when Maya had the panic attack during their vacation. He's got his hands on her
Yeah.
shoulders, dead eye
Yep.
contact, and just telling her to breathe.
Yep.
That stuck out because I saw the other one first. I was like, oh, this feels
There
recycled. And then it's like, oh, wait,
yeah.
no, it was the one that I saw first is the
That was
recycled
first.
one.
Yeah.
But yeah, it
Yeah.
felt a bit recycled. But I don't have much more to say about that. If you want to move on to,
Okay.
you happy to move on to the next bit?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so we're at Andy's house. She's doing laundry and drinking beer in her pajamas. What a winner. What a winning combination. If you have to do laundry, just do it whilst you're cozy and drinking alcohol. But Ryan comes over, and then we find out more about their relationship and backstory. So he's basically lived over the road for most of their lives. He's moved away at some point and he's been back like a week or so. And she tells Ryan that everyone's making decisions in her life without her. And we know now, obviously, that that becomes a bit of a theme for Andy as the
Mhm.
series progresses. And she tells Ryan that Jack's impulsive and rash, and he's never filed a report in his life, which she knows because he does them all. And Ryan tells
Right.
her that she should go for captain. And
Right.
Ryan says that whilst he loves her dad, he sees that he treats her as a caretaker and doesn't see her as a leader. And I kind
Yeah.
of loved that. And she breaks down saying she can't bury another parent. And we then learn that they were 9 when Andy's mum died. And then they have a kiss, and Andy takes his top off. And we
Yep.
leave them there.
For sure.
I mean, I've got some thoughts and feelings. Do you?
I mean, honestly, I wasn't surprised by it with their history and her having a couple beers with laundry. I wasn't really surprised by it. So I don't have too much thoughts by it, honestly. It with Shondaland and the way things are written, it was kind of expected for me.
Yeah. I love Ryan.
Yeah, I do too. I'm devastated he left,
Yeah.
especially after meeting him in Milan. He's so sweet. I would have loved to have seen him develop on the show.
Yeah. I loved his character in that scene.
Yeah,
Just thought
I
it was
did too.
brilliant. They bounce off each other really, really well. He's
Yeah,
very
they did.
caring, very
Their
supportive.
chemistry's a lot better, right?
Their chemistry is ridiculous. I've written that down. More chemistry than
Yeah,
with Jack, much less awkward kiss.
yeah, for sure, for
And
sure.
I loved that he was concerned about how much she'd been drinking
Yeah,
and,
yeah,
like her ability to consent. I
right.
loved that about him. But come on, she's cheated on Jack, surely. That's cheating, no?
I mean, is it though?
Well,
Did
she
they decide to stay in a relationship?
they definitely didn't break up. She didn't say it's over. She just
Okay.
kind of bulked at finding an engagement ring. He didn't even propose. She literally found an engagement ring, gave a few facial expressions, and then yelled at him for getting a dad nearly killed. And then that's all that's happened.
If we're looking at it that way, then yes, she did cheat on him. But to me, I mean, what relationship is going to survive yeah, no, I don't want to be engaged to you?
I don't know. Julia and I made it through 14 years with with different views on marriage.
But did somebody ask and somebody say no?
No, but we discussed it, and I said that I
Okay.
wanted to be married, and Julia said she did not want to
Ah,
be married.
okay, got it.
And then she
Got it.
proposed out of the blue, and I nearly fell down.
You're like,
I,
"Wait, what?"
yeah, I think actually what I did through all the tears was say, "Are you serious? This better not be a wind up." So yeah, there was never any argument or any bad feeling about it. It was just that we had
Yeah,
different views on marriage. She didn't want to be, and I did, and I still wanted to be with her, obviously,
yeah,
and she wanted to be with me. She just didn't want to be married. So I think
sure.
that yeah, that's definitely not the end of things. Just
Yeah.
to say, no, I don't want to marry you, but I still want to be with you and see where this thing goes. It wasn't. She didn't even say she didn't want to marry him. She just pulled a face. Like for me, that's 100% cheating. Yeah. Part 2 is already up and ready to roll, so head over there now and listen to us finish our breakdown of Season 1, Episode 1.